Stafford with time and going deep. And hauled in inside the 40 by Atwell. Goal from just beyond the 5. Stafford throws. Catch made. Touchdown, Tyler Higbee. There's a souvenir. He's got 2 today. With an adjustment to the bottom of your screen. The other way, it is a screen to Kyron Williams. Kyron Williams gets a block. He's in the end zone. And that's a wrap touchdown. Seattle. Stafford wants to throw. Floats it. Touchdown Rams. Kyron Williams. He's got another one.
Hey guys, welcome to another East Coast Rams podcast. I am your co-host Ashton here. I am taking over the pod. Zach is having a great turkey day or Thanksgiving with his family, doing a lot of fun family stuff. Andy. And so me and our special guest here, Andy, we're taking over. We're reacting to I don't know if you can call it a game, Andy, but one team showed up. Kyron Williams is back, and a lot to talk about, a lot to react. We are doing this on Tuesday night, so this is after the Monday night game where the Vikings lost.
If you could call it a game, Ashton, honestly, that was a pitiful excuse for a game to make us sit through on a Monday night.
Yeah, so the Vikings lost, and that has a lot of implications on NFC kind of manhunt as it goes for the 7th and 6th seeds. Generally, Andy, going back to the Arizona game, what's your initial reactions? You're a Dolphins fan, so I wanted to get you on here. If you guys don't know, he does some of our draft stuff when it comes because he watches a lot of college football, and there are a few Rams players that we ended up drafting that you called out. One of them had a pretty good game, Kobe Turner. Really good game. He's grown into his own. But your unbiased opinion of the team, and just want to kind of get your take on this game and then later on team as a whole.
Yeah. First off, Ashton, thank you for having me back on. Zach, hope you're having a good time, taking some relaxation, and get back next week. But in terms of the game, the Rams, Ashton, are a completely different team with Matthew Stafford under center, man. I mean, he brings the juice with the team, and I know Cooper Kupp wasn't really a factor in this game, but it didn't matter because Stafford was slinging it. But the star of the show, like the intro video showed, Kyron Williams comes back, and does he have a day? I mean, he was, I think, Ash, you were talking about it. He had more yards than the entire Cardinals team, him alone. Like, I get it. Cardinals are not a good team. They're somewhat frisky because of Kyler Murray and his, ability to evade the sack and kind of push plays out more than they should. But, man, it was a slaughter. I know the score was close at some points in the game, but it was never in doubt. Rams had it from the beginning to the end. Kyron, welcome back. Rams are vibing, Ashton. They're vibing at the right time. I mean, they're down the stretch. They have, I wouldn't say the easiest schedule, but there's definitely some winnable games. And with the NFC the way it is, kind of a bunch of middle to bottom feeder teams fighting for the 6th and 7th seed, there is a reasonable chance that the Rams, if they can win a big game coming up this weekend against Cleveland, you can see the Rams in as a 6th or 7th seed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Cleveland probably without their second quarterback too, and Myles Garrett is also day-to-day. Just a few notes, Andy, before we keep on going over this game. Duke Shelley got placed on the IR. I was excited when the Rams picked him up, but it looks like his days are numbered, at least when it comes to this season. And Quinn Lake is going to miss the next game to a really talented safety. A late 6-rounder. So someone who was finally starting to get a little bit of playing time, making a name for himself, is hitting the injury bug. So the Rams are kind of going to be short on DBs in the next few weeks. But circling back to this game, just complete domination on both sides of the ball for the most part. I felt like, Kyron Williams, I was a skeptic coming into the season after we drafted him. He frankly, when he did get touches last year, he did not look good. Didn't have a lot of burst. But rookies sometimes take time to learn the playbook, and he's been frankly great this season. He's turned my opinion of him around, and he's worked on the things he needed to. His run blocking is better this year than it was in his rookie year, which is a big thing with the Rams. And his burst is there, and you can see when he is in the open field, Andy, he is a different player. I feel like he still struggles on the ground to hit the hole, especially through the middle. That isn't really his game. But when he's like catching a pass or going on the outside, he has such a good acceleration ability to break contact, and that's a lot of the game, especially considering I was looking at his stats, Randy, and ironically, he averages around 3.5 to 4 yards per carry every other game until they hit the first Arizona game. He would end up getting hurt after that, but he had 7.5 that first game, and the second game he had 9.5 per carry. So something about the Cardinals brings out beast mode in Kyron Williams, and he was cooking them. Like you see from the game, just every run just destroying him. And this Rams offense kind of fed off of that. And the passing game really didn't have to do much. You saw a tight end room that has struggled all year to gain relevancy. Not a single touchdown up to this game. Tyler Higbee pops off, gets 2 touchdowns and like 50, 60 yards. You see just all the other pass catchers kind of get involved, Andy. Like, what about this Rams offense do you think made it different from its struggles earlier in the season or middle of the season, let's say?
Well, obviously, this is low hanging fruit. Stafford being back, playing to his full potential. I wouldn't say full potential, but he looks healthy. Didn't try to do too much. Was very efficient. Cardinals defense is not good, so it wasn't too hard. And then just not overly relying on Puka and Cooper Kupp. Going to Kyron a lot. He had, I think I was looking at the stats with his target share. He had 18% target share on drop back passes from Stafford. And that's good. Get your running backs involved. If your first second read's not there, if Kupp or Puka is covered, throw it to Kyron on like an out route. It looked better than we've seen. Getting those tight ends involved. I mean, Tyler Higbee had 5 targets in this game. That's huge. When 2 of them ended up being touchdowns. So, was 40% of his targets were touchdowns. Insane stat there. And just the running game was insane today. I mean, it wasn't just Kyron. Royce Freeman looked great when he was getting touches, right? And I mean, you were running so much. You even had Zach Evans, very, very limited, come in today and play a little bit. I didn't say did good, but he was playing. Yeah. Offensive line, again, held up, but, there was not any pressure. It's the Cardinals. They have Buda Baker. They
have some good young edge rushers. Let's give their edge room a little credit here, because if you look, I think it is. I don't know if he got any tackles.
Are you talking about Xavier Collins?
Yeah, Xavier Collins is one. Jalen Thompson, he's pretty good. I mean, again, it's a banged up. I believe actually their rookies might have been out, or one of them. Either way, it is a banged up Cardinals defense. And I said this after the first Cardinals game. Like, you have to take it with a little bit grain of salt. They are a struggling team right now. They look, frankly, more cohesive with Joshua Dobbs at that point in the season than they did with Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, outside of the scripted drive, he looked lost. Really, he was just trying to target his tight end the entire game, and an occasional throw to Hollywood Brown. And I think that's a credit to the Rams for bottling up the run and kind of limiting their running game to, pretty low averages.
Yeah. Cardinals, though, offensively, they just don't have many weapons that you're scared of. I mean, Hollywood Brown is fine, but if he's your number one receiver, that's not going to push the needle. He tried to target Hollywood, but little to no avail there. And then, like you said, dumping it off to Trey McBride a lot. I like McBride. He has a bright future, but when your two best players are McBride and Hollywood Brown in your receiving core, there's not much you can do. And when you're going up against a pass rush and a run defense that had Kobe Turner popping off, like, not to toot my own horn, Ashton, but if you go back in the history of this podcast and look at our draft episode that you guys did with me as a guest, I talked about if Kobe Turner joined up with someone like Aaron Donald, the future, I mean, the ceiling was there. Like, the potential was so high. I know, again, it's grain of salt, Cardinals offensive line, Cardinals team as a whole. What can you take from that? But to get 2 sacks in any game against any team, you're doing something right. So I think the defense is starting to click more. Aaron Donald's still Aaron Donald. Ernest Jones still that tackle hawk in the middle of the linebacking core. So, I mean, it's getting better as the weeks go on.
Yeah, you can definitely see this is one of the most, or it is one of the youngest defenses in the league. And you saw, like, at points against big teams like the Eagles, they just they weren't cohesive enough. And you can tell these players are growing in confidence. They're learning the playbook more. And that makes a lot of difference, especially when you're talking about Kobe Turner filling up the middle of that D line, which I still think we need a little bit more. You also have Edge popping off this game a little bit, and then, look at the safeties. Jordan Fuller, he was a tackle machine this game. He was everywhere. He was flying around. And this is one of the heaviest, pass deflection games the Rams defense have had so far. So it wasn't like Kyler Murray wasn't trying to air out the ball. It was just this defense was doing such a great job at deflecting it and stopping what they wanted to do with certain concepts.
Yeah, 100%. To go off the pass deflections, 10 as a team overall the entire game. And you talk about Jordan Fuller, he had 4 of them.
Yeah.
Insane day to have 4 pass deflections. Man was all over the field, doing it all, causing nightmares for Kyler Murray, wishing he was back playing Call of Duty.
Yeah. I thought Byron Young had a solid game. But Roseboom looks solid. I'm not the biggest Roseboom fan, but I think as a depth linebacker, he had a good day. We saw Jason Taylor II. I was kind of happy when the Rams got him as an undrafted free agent, and he's finally getting some play because of injuries. And I thought he looked solid out there. So, this Rams DB room, I've said all year, has been underrated. Do I think they're the Legion of Boom, top 5 pass defense all time? No. But I think for what they're being asked to do with a very mediocre pass rush outside of Byron Young, and Aaron Donald, that's only 2 people on a 6-man front, and no one else can really produce heavy pressure until this game with Kobe Turner. They've been, I think it was 4.5 is the average amount of seconds in the NFL for a QB to throw against the secondary. And we're around 13th when it comes to a yardage given up, Andy. So that's pretty good given the fact that quarterbacks have had a century back there. In the NFL, guys, 4.5 is a long time to sit back there and be able to dole out the ball. And you can see with this, the pass rush was a little bit better and thus kind of helping out with the coverage.
Yeah, 100%. You can't – to have a good pass coverage unit, you can't ask the safeties and the corners to do too much. And what I mean by that is you can't say, we're not going to rush the quarterback at all. You better stay on your man or stay in your zone and not allow a single thing for multiple seconds, 5, 6, 7 seconds. No, that can't work. The receivers are too good in the NFL. They're too shifty. They're too athletic. You have to have pressure. Kind of giving a different analogy here. A lot of people might know if they've seen me before. I'm a South Carolina Gamecock fan. Sometimes it hurts me. But the biggest reason for our defensive problems this season was we had no speed off the edge. We didn't cause enough pressure. And even if our corners and safeties, which I like, were covering the initial couple seconds, it's that secondary seconds, the fourth, fifth, sixth second, when they're still having all the time to throw in the pocket, the quarterback, and they're able to get free. So in order to have a good pass coverage, you have to have at least a average to good pass rush. But if you're not getting pressure, you're going to allow the quarterback to sit back and pick you apart.
Yeah, now their O-line isn't the best in the world, so you have to take that also into account. But they have some young players that aren't bad, in my opinion. I really like I believe it's their new left tackle. I really liked him coming out of college. Uh, but it is what it is. You got to deal with. A lot of injuries, defense on the defensive side for Arizona, and the Rams took advantage. Rams take this one pretty easily. Andy, any other thoughts about this game? I mean,
No, just the defensive line, the interior defensive line was just a stellar. I mean, it kind of forced the Cardinals to do something they're not used to, and that's go pass heavy. Kyler Murray had 45 pass attempts in this game, and they ran the ball 15 times, including a run by Kyler. So they weren't doing the normal script, their rushing attack that's been so effective. James Conner was a non-factor, and when that happens, they're not going to beat you in the air. So if that interior defensive line can keep that up and improve your edge rushers, I mean, you got some winnable games coming up.
yeah. And Trey Hodges-Tomlinson almost had a pick six. That would have been, pretty excited for him to get on the field a little bit more. Not excited for injuries, but you get opportunity only so often in the NFL, and you got to take full advantage of it and next man up, as a lot of teams are saying this time of year. And talking about other teams, Andy,
Yes.
that's going to be our pivot. The Rams are now 5-6. Don't worry, Andy. I still remember dark days when we lost 3 or 4 in a row. I was mightily depressed. You remember those days as Dolphins fan,
Yes.
the dark days.
Yes.
Brian Flores, a lot of choke jobs going into the playoffs.
No. Not Brian Flores, man. The ghost of Adam Gase, man. He was
Adam Gase. Yeah, I don't want to bring up PTSD because I'll think of Jeff Fisher. They're both a couple made for heaven there. But yeah, Andy, this is a 5-6 team. The Vikings lost on Monday Night Football. I didn't watch that game because my fantasy team, one of my fantasy teams, was in a rough spot, Andy. I was only up 15 going against the Bears quarterback and TJ Hawkinson, and I knew I didn't have a chance. So I didn't watch this game because I was mildly depressed about my fantasy team. Andy, you sounded like you watched this game, but
regretfully watched some of the game, a good majority of the game. Wish I didn't. It was abysmal to watch. I thought no one was going to score a touchdown this game. I think there was, if I'm not mistaken, there was one touchdown to your boy TJ Hawkinson, but other than that, I mean, it was awful. Josh Dobbs, love the man, the Pastronaut, threw 4 interceptions in this game. 4. It was terrible. Vikings couldn't do anything. The running game was barely working. The passing game was not working. And all the Chicago Bears were doing was throwing screens to DJ Moore and Cole Kmet and then kicking field goals. And they somehow won because that defense, they're playing, man. Eberflus, as much as he's a terrible offensive coach, he's got that defense working. The addition of Montez Sweat from Washington, man. I mean, obviously, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs or anything. They've lost too many games, but defensively, they're going to be frisky and help teams like the Rams have a chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah, so the Vikings are I think they've already announced they're benching Josh Dobbs. I'm like, for who?
It's Jaron Hall, BYU draft pick. I like Jaron Hall personally, but he's not going to bring much more than what Josh Dobbs was.
Yeah, especially as a rookie starting out. But, we can talk about their scheduling meeting. So, really, you have 3 or 4 teams. The Rams are in contention with the 6th and 7th seed. I think you're conceding either most likely the Cowboys will have that 5th seed.
Mhm.
Either that or the Eagles if something weird happens with the Eagles at the
I
end of the
seriously
year.
doubt it.
I
I mean,
doubt
it
it.
could, but
But one of those two teams has the 5th seed locked up. So that comes down to the Vikings, the Seahawks, the Rams, and the Packers. Those are really the 4 teams. 2 of those 4 teams are going to and Falcons, I guess. Falcons and Saints. The only problem with those 2 teams are one of them has to win their division. So really, you kind of have 5 teams fighting for 2 spots.
yeah. I think don't cut the Saints out, Ashton. The Rams do play the Saints coming up shortly. I think it's 3 weeks away, 4 weeks away. That's
We have
a
a
big
Monday
game.
night.
I don't think they're a threat because they're pretty mid, especially with Derek Carr and how he loves to choke away everything in the red zone. But no, I wouldn't. I agree with you. It's interesting, honestly, right? Because you guys have the 2 wins of the Seahawks. That's huge. So you have the tiebreaker because of that. Seahawks have been playing really bad lately. I think Geno is just had a great last season. It was a great story that we're seeing that this is not a reliable starting quarterback, and they're going to have to go out next year and get one. Their defense is fine, but
They have to
not good
play
enough.
the Cowboys, and I think the 49ers. Their season schedule to end the year is brutal.
They play.
Brutal.
This is their schedule. Ashton, I'll read it off. They're at Dallas this weekend, Thursday night game. At San Francisco, at home against the Eagles. That's 3 losses, most likely, unless they get an upset against the Eagles, probably. Then they travel to Tennessee. That's a winnable game. At home against the Steelers, and the way the Steelers have played last week, once they fired their offensive coordinator, Canada, it's not an easy win. And then they get 1 pick-me-up game in Arizona. And if Arizona, they know they're the laughingstock, why wouldn't they try to beat a divisional opponent and kick them out of the playoffs? So it's not an easy
Even
schedule.
3 losses makes it very hard for the Seahawks because they can't tie the Rams. Now it's a little bit different. If it's a 3-way tie, I believe it comes down to divisional, and the Rams already have a winning divisional record with the 2 sweeps at 4. The problem with the Seahawks is I believe they beat Arizona once, and they lost to 49ers already. So, like, they're already at 3, so they have to not lose a single more game divisionally, and they'll lose that tiebreaker against the Rams anyways. That 4 wins for division is going to be really big, Andy, going into those tiebreakers if it's a 3-way tie.
I really don't trust the Seahawks to make the playoffs. Maybe it's a hot take. I don't know. I think they're going to miss it. They're going to lose 3 games in a row, and they're going to be outside looking in. And when they don't have a tiebreaker over the Rams, who are they going to be able to overtake, right? I just don't see the Seahawks making it.
Yeah, well, the other problem is the Vikings don't have a QB anymore, and their schedule's a little bit easier than Seahawks, but not as good. Not as bad as the Seahawks.
Yep. Minnesota plays at Las Vegas this weekend, so that's a very, very bad game. Could go either way with the way the 2 rookie quarterbacks playing against each other. Then they're at the Bengals against the Jake Browning and the Joe Burrow-less Bengals. Then they're at home, divisional opponents the rest of the way. Not at home, but divisional opponents the rest of the way. The Lions, Packers, and then the Lions in Detroit to finish up the season. So those 3 divisional games are huge for Minnesota. I think they can split the Lions, maybe, the way the Lions have been kind of iffy against teams that aren't as good as them. But it's another interesting team that we need to see what Jaren Hall's got before we can make assumptions on how they're going to play. Justin Jefferson, they have a bye this week. Then they play
he
the
could
Raiders
come
in
back.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
If he's back, it adds another element. But how much do we trust the rookie quarterback?
Yeah, and not to mention, like, that Green Bay game is going to be big for the kind of playoff math there. Because if either of these teams Minnesota or Green Bay goes on a run. Most likely Green Bay, just because of how they've been playing recently, and their schedule is probably.
The easiest.
I would say the Rams have the easiest out of all the contenders right now for the 7, but they have the second easiest.
I personally, we can disagree. I think the Packers are easiest post the Chiefs game this weekend. After
Well,
the
you have
Chiefs
to
game,
include the Chiefs game.
I'll get through it. I agree, but the rest of the way they can win every single game, or at least they're in every game. At New York, at home against Tampa Bay, on the road against Carolina, terrible team. On the road against Minnesota, the one we just talked about, probably the biggest game of the season for the Rams' playoff implication. That doesn't involve them. And then at home against the Bears again to finish the season. So it's a very Bears are winnable, Panthers are winnable, Buccaneers are winnable, Giants are winnable. That's 4 games you probably put them as the favorites in. 4 W's, that puts them at 9 wins. So it's then we got to go look at the Rams schedule and see, okay, how the Rams are going to win 4 games and compete. And the Rams play the Browns this weekend at Baltimore. I think Browns is the easiest of those 2, but Baltimore is going to be really tough. At home against the Commies, so I'll give you that one. That should be a good win there. At home against the Saints, very winnable. On the road against the Giants, winnable game. That's 3. Then on the road against San Fran, and historically been terrible against San Francisco. So you have to win this weekend. That's your 4th win. You got to beat the Browns. But it's a little bit tougher in my opinion because the Browns' defense is still so good in my eyes.
So I think the one thing to look at with the 49ers is there is a possibility they are sitting starters, right? Depending on how that 1 seed looks, because
Fair.
I think the Eagles will have a big enough lead. Like if the 49ers are playing for the 2nd seed, they would have probably already won it by then between them and the Lions, because the Lions have a pretty difficult end of the season.
I will say this, Ashton, and you know the Niners better than anybody, and Niner fans better than anybody, but if you had a chance, if you were Kyle Shanahan, one of your bitter rivals have to play you with their season on the line, you're not going to try your best to beat them, kick them out of playoff contention, assuming you have that option. And that
I mean, if it's not as like obvious, like clear, like we're gonna be the 2 seed no matter what, they're gonna try to win that game. And they got lucky in the first game. Let's be honest. I think the Rams should have beat them. Their quarterback threw like 3 picks and had 2 fumbles. That none of those defensive plays happened to get made, and some of that's on the Rams. But 49ers got a little fortunate. They had balls go their way and some calls go their way. And, if that stuff isn't there, I really think with this Rams offense, if it's firing, which the Rams have shot themselves in the foot a lot this year, if the offense is on, I really do believe this team can beat this 49ers team. But they have to play a perfect game. And if they have mistakes, they're going to lose. And this has been a mistake-prone, execution, struggling offense at points in the season. So, we'll see. I think it's kind of jumping the gun whether or not our season will be on the line there. Still, some things have to go our way for even that to be a realistic situation.
Yep. Just for, I guess, the reference at home for the viewers listening and watching at home, Saints technically have a shot as well. Their schedule is also somewhat easy as well. Lions this weekend at home is a tough game. But then they get the Panthers, Giants, both at home the following 2 weeks, at the Rams, at Tampa Bay, and then finish the season against the Falcons, which could decide the NFC South, maybe. I think if I was a betting man, I think the Falcons will get that 4 seed. I think after the bye, they finally decided to give the ball to their number 3 overall drafted running back, who's absurd when they give him the ball. I think that's going to help them. Defense is doing much better with Jesse Bates coming back to form. I'll give him the 4 seed. So we're looking at 2 spots, right? I think Seattle misses the playoffs. I think we can all agree on that. I think they just have a tougher schedule. Tampa Bay will shoot themselves in the foot too much. Baker Mayfield will not be the guy to lead them to the playoffs. So now you're looking at Minnesota, Green Bay, Rams, and New Orleans fighting it out. And we need 2 spots, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't trust Minnesota. That's the Minnesota way, is to lose in close games, to miss it out. I'm kicking them out. So I'm going to go with the Packers to get the 6th seed and the Rams to get the 7th seed. That's my betting favorite right now, but it's very close, but I'm going to say here first, Rams get the 7th seed. We'll talk about the wild card later, but 7th seed, I think it's very possible. I think they're going to do it.
That Saints game, Andy, is that's probably the biggest game on the schedule. Honestly,
Yeah.
I think we've said this a few times on the pod. Me and Zach, the 49ers game and the Ravens game, you can lose those and still control your own destiny to a certain point. You have to win every other game.
Yep.
And when you lose any one of those other 4 games, that's when you stop controlling your own destiny and people control it for you with how stuff goes. Yeah, so you can control what you can control, Andy. But thank you so much for coming on this episode of East Coast Rams. Andy, at any time, if you want to go follow this man, get his hot takes, awesome takes, Andy at Andy Sandlin 2001. You can find me at RamFanAshton1. You can at any time go to eastcoastrams.com. You can find us at East Coast Rams on Twitter, X, Threads. We got all the medias. And thank you guys for listening. Please like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Tell us down below what you think the Rams will end up. What seed, their record.
I will
Andy.
Before you go, on the record, will the Rams make the playoffs?
Yes.
Ooh, we heard it here first. Ashton, the Ram fan.
I think I had us going like 9-8. I was between 7 and 10 wins. But I think I said if you put a gun up to my head, I would say 9, kind of averaging it out. And this team is better than what I thought it was going to be. It really is. But the problem is they're inconsistent and they show flashes, and they can't consistently do that on either side of the ball. And if you can do that for 4 quarters, I really think this team can beat any team in the NFL. But they're young and they just haven't proven that yet. And, I think the future is very bright for next year with all that cap space and a first-round pick, Andy. It's been so long. I feel like I've aged so much. I thought I was going to have a child by the time we picked in the first round again.
I know you got to pick a good first-round pick, so that's the fun begins with the first-round pick.
Yeah. And what about your Dolphins? Do you think you're going to get that number 1 seed?
If I'm being realistic, no. If I'm being completely biased, of course. But no. I like the Dolphins. I don't think we're true Super Bowl contenders, but I think we will be in the mix for a divisional and conference appearance. So.
Yeah, we've always said Rams versus Dolphins Super Bowl. That would be one that we would definitely try to go to, because I don't think that will ever happen again in our lifetimes. And that would be
possible.
Crazy.
It's possible.
7 seed Rams team versus a, let's say, number 2 seed Dolphins. I think that would be a lot of fun, and we would get cooked. But I would enjoy seeing Tyreek Hill catch all over us.
Oh yeah, I would too. So that'd be fun.
Yeah. All right, Andy. Thank you for jumping on. Thank you guys for listening. And horns up. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.